The following program is a public access production. Comcast is required to provide time on this channel and make it available pursuant to franchise agreements with the communities we serve. Comcast is not affiliated with the following program or the producers of public access programming and is not responsible for the content. The following program does not reflect the opinions of Comcast or its affiliates.
Welcome to Chicago Theatre Review. Welcome to a new season of theater, and we have a great show for you today. Today we have as our guest half of the dueling critics. We have Jonathan Abarbalel, we have Gail, who's with us, and we do have Al Bresloff, our resident critic. So today what we're going to do is this show, we're not going to have any special guests, and we're going to talk nothing about shows that are happening in Chicago, considering there are 42 openings this month alone in September. So we're going to start off with the first show, which is something that I think everybody's seen, and that is Xanadu. Except you didn't see that one.
I haven't seen Xanadu.
Xanadu was done at the Drury Lane Theater.
And it's fantastic. It's, I remember seeing the movie and not liking it. I remember seeing the Broadway production that came in, not liking it. But there's something magical going on at Drury Lane. Rachel's just, whatever her imagination, her ideas, her concepts, she put it all and put the right people in the right places at the right time and created some magic.
Yeah. It's Rachel Rockwell, the director and choreographer, correct?
Yeah. She just has magic.
She did a great job. The music was great. We had great seats. Gail, you liked it. You were dancing, I'm sure.
I have to disagree just a little bit, though, with Al. Sorry.
Really?
Yeah, I actually liked the production downtown a couple years ago that came in. I liked that a little bit better. I thought it was a little bit more polished, and although I liked the lead guy, I think he could have been a little slimmer for the role. He was a tiny bit chunky. And the other issue,
she wants a hunky guy.
There was one more issue though, and I think like someone pointed out to me, and then I really agreed with it, that they all seemed very skittish on roller skates, which was a little strange because the show is a roller skating show. So I'm just becoming a dueling critic.
No, I haven't seen the show, but you know the typical rehearsal period for any show in Chicago is relatively short, 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks before you're into previews, and maybe if you go see Xanadu 2 or 3 weeks from now, they'll be a little more sure on their feet.
I'm not saying I really did like it. It was very cute, but I'm just saying that they all seemed just kind of unsure of themselves.
But they didn't all wear roller skates until the end.
Right.
And Gene Weingang said he has roller skated since his little boy, and he looked very unsure, but he just did it for the curtain call. I mean, that's just to come out for
and he, by the way, is like just a class act all around. Well, everything he does.
Well, what we'll do is, while they're dueling this out, let's show a clip of Xanadu. Here's a clip of Xanadu.
Walk away. Don't walk away. Don't say goodbye. Don't say goodbye. Don't turn around. Don't turn around. Don't let it die. Don't let it die. When days come all through the night, all of my life, don't walk away.
That was the clip of Xanadu.
Wow, that was amazing.
So that's playing until the middle of October, and that'll be playing at Drury Lane. Now let's go to another show. Gail, you just went to Court Theater, and you saw Jitney.
I did. I saw August Wilson's Jitney. Court Theater, they're such a good theater. The acting was so superb. I guess everybody has seen Jitney at some point, right?
Yes.
It's about a group of gentlemen who run a jitney service. kind of all the little interpersonal relationships. I was very, very tired because I ran a race in the morning, so I think that might have contributed to me not just being real wide awake. But it was very good. Charles Newell is just, I mean, he's a great artistic director, and some of the characters were just, the acting was so superb. I just think the material is just a little boring for me.
Yeah, well, I'm seeing it this week, but I know that when you're talking about August Wilson, the people either love August Wilson or they don't.
Now this is, Jitney is part of August Wilson's cycle of 10 plays,
yes,
one for each decade of the 20th century that reflect the
yes,
African-American experience here.
Yes.
And Jitney, like most of the other 10, is set in the old Hill District ghetto of Pittsburgh, which has now been gentrified out of existence. Remind me what decade Jitney is.
This is
80s,
70s.
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 Late 70s.
Now, as I recall, like Al, I'm going to be seeing Jitney, but I haven't seen it in several years. My recollection is that it's, of the whole cycle of 10 plays, it is one of the few that has essentially a happy or a hopeful ending rather than being involved with violence or death. Am I correct in recalling that?
No, there's death in the end.
Oh, which one am I thinking of?
I'm sorry. Sorry to... No, and that's the weird part of the play, is that one of the characters is just all of a sudden dead, and it's like there's no explanation. It's just kind of like, you come back and he's dead, and it's just kind of, and he's like the main character.
Because he hasn't been murdered.
No, he hasn't been murdered.
Okay.
Okay, he died naturally.
It's not a, I mean, so many of Wilson's plays reflect, in effect, black-on-black violence with the shadow of the unseen urban
Which
man,
there was
white
some of
guy,
that, where there was one character that wanted
Okay.
to shoot another character.
But didn't, in this
Right.
particular.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it was good. It was very good. I mean, I enjoyed Court. I guess it's probably just not totally my cup of tea. I've seen some of the other ones though, in that 10 cycle.
Now you mentioned Charles Newell, who was the artistic director of Court Theatre, but wasn't the director of this Ron O.J. Parsons?
Yes.
And he is an artistic affiliate or
Associate.
at Court Theatre.
And I think he does most of the
He does. He does.
stuff.
So that's playing until October. That's at the Court Theatre, and that's Jitney. Now, Al, you just went to see Grease.
I did. I went out to the beautiful theater in Aurora, Paramount, and saw a very, very sharp production. It's a little different. It's on a big stage, and they did big. I mean, their set is magnificent. The set is actually, as I mentioned in my review, it's like a character. It really becomes a character. The set has a car. They took a 1956 Chevy, a four-door sedan, and they chopped the top off to make it a convertible, and the Grease Lightning is there. I mean, the car rotates around and becomes fancy. They did everything almost to perfection when it came to that. Their sound was a little off, but the actors that they found were not what you expect when you see them, but they brought it back to Chicago. They made it Chicago, not the way it's supposed to be. They had the bungalows on when they showed houses, it was always the Chicago bungalow, and it was just clean. The audience was packed. Everybody seemed to love it. Little kids that were sitting behind me thought it was the neatest show they've ever seen in their lives. And then an older gentleman that was sitting behind me, he was complaining about the car because it's a four-door and they chopped the top off. He said, why couldn't they find a real convertible? I mean, that was this whole thing.
Jonathan, have you been out to Paramount?
Well, not to see Grease.
No, but for other shows.
Yeah.
Okay. Because they're doing that whole Broadway thing now.
It's a beautiful
Their
theater,
shows
I
are
have to admit.
actually, they're well done.
Yes.
Yeah, well done, and the theater is just the most comfortable theater.
Yeah.
Getting there is a little bit of a problem sometimes, but once you're there, I mean, there's great restaurants in the area. There's parking is easy.
You can go
if
to
you like
the
gambling,
casino.
if you go right across the street, and there you go.
Well, we do have a clip of the show, so let's first see a clip of the show, and then we'll get right back.
The Word at the Paramount Theater in Aurora. Get your groove on with Danny, Sandy, and the rest of Rydell High. Sing along to Summer Nights and rock out to Grease Lightning while incredible dance numbers will blow you away. From poodle skirts to slick back hair, the Pink Ladies and T-Birds will have you hand-jiving in your seats. Playing now through October 7th at the Paramount in Aurora. Call 630-896-6666.
That was the clip of Grease.
Jonathan, what did you want to...
Okay, so Grease is playing until, I think it's October 17th or 29th.
Yeah, I think it's like 4 weeks total, so it's got...
to the end. Jonathan, what did you see that you want to talk about?
Well, there are several shows, and I think Al or Al and Gail, at least two of us or three of us have seen 33 Variations, which is kicking off the season for Timeline Theatre Company, though not at their regular home on Wellington. They're doing this at Stage 773 on
And tell
Belmont.
people why. They told us, were you there? Oh, they told us why they're at 773.
The Timeline is one of the great success stories of Chicago Off-Loop Theater the last few years. Their subscription audience has grown. They have more people than they can fit into their original space in the length of time they have to run a show. At Stage 773, they can accommodate more people at one time, so they can do a production there, and also, mount a production at the Wellington
Both at the
Avenue
same
space.
time, right.
So they've got two at the same
overlapping.
time.
Now, this is a play by the American director and author Moises Kaufman, who is best known for the Laramie Project, the documentary play about the death of Matthew Shepard. But this is quite different. This is set in modern-day Bonn, Germany, and the Vienna of 1819, 1820. It concerns an American musicologist, researcher, a woman, Dr. Catherine Brandt, and her research into a late piano composition by Beethoven. So she is trying to figure out why Beethoven, in the process of going stone cold deaf and also beginning to die of various diseases, devoted 3 years of his life to composing not one, not two, but 33 piano variations on a little 50-second waltz written by a music publisher. So we see scenes of her and her research assistant. We see scenes of Beethoven and his historical amanuensis, Anton Schindler, who kept him going in those last years. And she's trying to figure him out. She also has a strained relationship with her own daughter, and she is dying of ALS. So you have the parallel of two figures, the doctor and Beethoven, at the very height of their artistic and intellectual powers, and physically falling apart, physically dying, and how they both deal with this. And I don't think it's a great play as a piece of writing. I think it is a tremendously audience-pleasing play, partly because they have a concert grand piano on stage and a concert pianist in a tuxedo who actually plays parts and pieces of the 33 Beethoven variations to illuminate what is going on stage. And the center of the play really is about the relationship between the research doctor, the musical researcher, and her daughter as the researcher's life comes to a close. The actors, the cast features veteran actor, Timeline actor Terry Hamilton as Beethoven, and as Dr. Catherine Brandt, it is Janet Ulrich Brooks. Both of them are superb actors who can, with the tick of an eye, give you, the interior of what they're thinking. And they and the concert pianist are really the forces that drive this production.
Now, Gail, you saw it also, right?
Yes. I think you're right. It's not a great play, but it was executed so well at Timeline. The set, the way they did the set, the way they used the set was amazing. And of course, Timeline always, you can always walk into their, there it was in the back of the theater, and you can read, you always know the history of their plays and stuff, which is great.
They keep you informed of
and Jesse Fisher, by the way, was very good too, as well.
It's been such a crazy time with so many shows that I haven't been able to. I'm making up. I'm going to matinees. I'm every chance I get, I go to see another play.
Well, let's see a clip of 33 Ways.
Variations.
33 Variations.
I've taken these 4 notes and used them in this variation. This one. This one. That's all with 4 notes. Now you can have that music. You can have me talking with the count.
Now, that was the clip of 33 Variations.
And by the way, it was sort of a tearjerker. I mean, it kind of left you at the end very...
Well, ultimately, the research doctor,
Right.
and her daughter have a coming together.
Right.
And she actually has a conversation with Beethoven, kind of a quasi-ghostly conversation, a vision of him that helps her cope with her own situation. We should mention the 33 Variations is running through October 21st.
Okay. So definitely see it.
At
Consider
stage
it.
773, not at timelines.
That's it.
Right.
Now, I went to a smaller theater this week, and that was Boho Theater of, 30 people at home.
Yeah, I think
totally.
it's 30 in the studio.
It's on that great street of Glenwood,
Right.
which you have Theater Ubuque, and then you got Timeline.
Lifeline.
Lifeline. And they did a great show. They did Spitfire Grill, which was based on the movie, which came out in the 90s, and then it became an off-Broadway musical, I think in 2002. So they packed a lot in this tiny little theater. It was directed by Anna Hammonds. They did a wonderful job. The music was great. My only complaint is, even though it's a musical, do you have to sing almost every little thought that you have? I mean, that would have made a great play without the music, but with the music, it was still excellent. Laura Savage plays the main role. She did an excellent job. The entire thing that Boho does is just wonderful. And I even like the fact that because it takes place in a grill, that the
Program is a menu.
program is
menu.
is a menu. So they did a wonderful show. It's only playing for a month, so it's only playing until October 15th. I highly recommend it, considering this theater. I gave up my seats because I had 2 tickets yesterday and someone else had 2 tickets. We both came single, so we gave up. They still filled the entire theater, so they have a waiting list of people trying to see
Well, we only
this.
have 30 seats. It can happen pretty quickly.
So I do recommend people get there. Parking isn't that bad. I just parked 3 blocks away and found street parking. So I do recommend Spitfire Grill, and that's by Boho Theater. Okay, now let's talk about what else is playing in Chicago. Now, did any of you go to Provisions? No? Provisions Theater?
What are they? No.
They're doing Shaw and Chesterton.
Right.
I know we all saw the last show, which it's actually being done for another month at is it the Apollo Theater or Mercury? What am I thinking of?
Well, the Mercury has
Freud's
Freud's last session.
This is basically done on the same premise as Freud's last session. So with Freud, now you've got Bernard Shaw and Chesterton, who were supposed to be great debaters in the early 1900s.
G.K. Chesterton. Right?
Yeah. And it was a great cast. It's only 3 people in the entire show, and they actually put on a debate. And of course, they debate religion, politics, God, and they actually have audience participation a little bit. You can actually boo if you don't agree with because Bernard Shaw is an atheist. Chesterton was religious, and he actually converted to Catholicism, which comes out into the show. The premise of the show is, can you have opposite beliefs and opposite ideas and still be friends?
No.
And
Sorry.
and basically in this show, they were
to be answered.
best of friends. Bernard Shaw and Chesterton were very good friends. They loved to debate. And even though they might not agree with each other on politics and religions, they still remained good friends. So you take a show that takes place in the early 1900s, how does it reflect to the year 2000? The same topics are being discussed today. You know, we still have the same thing with politics between the Democrats and the Republicans. We still have world politics and religion.
Religion will always be debatable.
And it's amazing how 100 years
So
later it's still
politics.
relevant today's. They do a great show. It was only 90 minutes, no breaks, but I really enjoyed it. And that's Provisions.
That's on my list for
By the
next
way,
week
don't you
as well.
guys love those 90-minute shows with no
Yeah.
intermission when you're
Sometimes.
when you're
They're
doing
not-
20
they're-
shows a week?
Well, you know, this is a subject that should be explored. There are more and more of the shows that are 90 minutes or 80 minutes or 85. And my feeling, if you're going to write a play that, and sometimes even a musical, but let's say a play that is that short, you know, a lot of playwrights still try to write a play, a 90-minute or 85-minute play with 6 or 7 characters in it. You can't do it. The 3 is about the outside maximum number of characters you can efficiently establish and explore in some depth in a play, an extended one-act play. Sometimes, like Goodman's production of The Iceman Comet last spring, which was 4 hours and 45 minutes, or a Shakespeare play, you have to live with the characters for a length of time if you're going to have more than 2 or 3 of them that you want to get to know.
Right.
So, playwrights are writing shorter and shorter to accommodate attention spans based on television and things like that, and people who want to text and do all sorts of things at the same time.
Although I do want to say that somebody...
But they are also diminishing the whole concept of what a play is in a substantial measure.
Somebody mentioned that when Xanadu was done downtown, it was done without an intermission, and that they chose to do an intermission at this one. And that one of the reviews I read said that this wasn't a show. Sometimes when you break up a show, you sort of, you shouldn't break it up.
Right, you lose your audience.
And they broke this up, and they could have just kind of done, because they did the whole thing downtown without an intermission. So they were sort of curious why they broke it up with an intermission.
I think because
of the audience.
I think part of your audience, you have a subscription base of people that are senior citizens that have to have that potty break. You've got to do it.
Well, I think it's, if you don't have an intermission, Al, you can't sell drinks.
That's right.
And you can't sell drinks.
Well, it's like even yesterday, I went to the Disney on Ice with my grandchildren. That show could easily have been 78 minutes. And they break it up with a 22-minute intermission
for cotton candy.
to sell cotton candy and souvenirs that are $20 for a piece of plastic. They got to do it. That's
and by the way, where downtown made their money was they sold the CD, and everybody was buying the CD, so they didn't really have to buy drinks during intermission.
So Al, I want to know, were you suckered in? Did you buy $20 pieces of plastic?
I bought
for the
for
grandkids?
each of my grandkids got an item and popcorn and cotton candy. Yes.
See, they made their money.
And it's their parents who have to pay the dental bills, right?
That's right.
Well, we have one
and
more.
had to be up with them all night with all the sugar.
Let's talk about one more play, and this is by, I think, Vitalis Theater, which I've never been to any of their productions, but they're doing a show called The Pool with No Water.
Pool No Water is a recent play, written a few years ago by Mark Ravenshill, who once upon a time was an enfant terrible of British theater. He made his debut by writing a controversial play called Shopping and a word I'm not sure I can say on cable, the F word.
Just say the F word.
Yeah, and the F word, shopping and effing, as it were.
Fill in the blank.
He is no longer an enfant terrible. He is now a middle-aged man who has worked with the National Theatre of Great Britain. He has become an establishment playwright who continues to write really highly experimental work. And Pool No Water is about a group of artists. There originally were 7. Now, due to death, there are only 5 left. And they were all students together. They were all young and poor together. One of them has become wealthy and successful. And the play is told in chorale style. The script is written as a long monologue, and it's up to the director to divide up the lines between one person, 2 people, 3 people, or all 5 of them speaking together. And it reflects on personal jealousy, personal ambition, the nature of friendship, the nature of art, what can be fair game as subject for art, what is too personal or not. And it's a long one act, there's no intermission. And the set is designed to look like an empty swimming pool. Highly physical. There's a great deal of choreography they have used to put it together, what they call contact improvisation, which is a physical style, as well as the spoken words. And it's a play that I found at the beginning a bit insubstantial because I didn't care enough about the characters, but it gained critical mass as it went along, and I found it to be ultimately an interesting and powerful piece.
Well, we do have a clip of this show, so let's see a clip of Pool No Water.
I'm in hospice. Sally, in an awful hospice, has gone into her bones now. It's eaten into her body, and now that little, evil, disgusting seed is eaten into her bones. It's got a taste for the marrow, and she lies there, and she lies there, and she says, I want to die! I want to die! Why won't they let? I won't take the medication when all I want is to die! What do you say to her?
Okay, so that's the clip. Pool No Water's playing till when, do you know?
Yeah, the Vitalist Theater at the Greenhouse Theater Center on Lincoln Avenue through September 30th.
Okay, so it's only going to play for another 2 weeks.
That's it.
So people do need to see that. Okay, is there any special news that you want to talk about?
The one story I would mention is that Loyola University has finally announced what I think I actually announced on this show 6 months ago, that the new theater they are constructing in the Mundelein Center will indeed be named after Bob Newhart, a 1954 alumnus of Loyola University. It will be called the Newhart Family Theater. Mr. Newhart is incorporating this as a gift from his immediate family, extended family, and not just himself personally. It's a beautiful little 250-seat theater, very handsome, and I believe it is now scheduled to open sometime at the end of October, a little bit behind schedule. The
He's
Newhart
still alive,
Family
though, isn't
Theater.
he? But,
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I saw him in a show 2 or 3 years ago.
Well, he's made private visits to the Loyola campus 2 or 3 times in the last 6 or 8 months to look at the physical work of the theater.
It's exciting.
Al, is there anything that you need to mention?
Nothing special. Like,
Now,
same-
Gail does want to talk about something new, about a wonderful restaurant.
I just want to mention that there was the chef at Bistro 110. His name is Dominic. I don't know if I'm going to say his last name right. It's spelled Tougne. And he now, he opened this restaurant called Chez Moi. And what he's doing is, it's actually interesting, so I want to just tell people about it. It's right by Steppenwolf and Royal George. So he's got this thing going that if you go to the restaurant before one of the shows, he will then in turn give you a $10 gift card, which I think is kind of cool for dining there before you go to the shows. So I just want to mention it. The address is 2100 North Halsted, and it's open for dinner at 5 o'clock every day and then brunch on Saturdays and Sundays. And it's a French restaurant, obviously. So I just want to mention that. So if you're going to the show, let them know that you're going to be at one of those shows, and you will get a gift card to come back. $10 probably can buy you a glass of water.
Good water.
Good water with lemon in it.
Pure water.
So as usual, we are out of time, and so we have a lot to talk about. So we have another show coming on, and so in the meantime, we'll see you. I want to thank Al, Gail, Jonathan, and we will see you all at the theater. From Chicago Theatre Review, I'm Frank.